What's up? I'm Sean, if you don't already know me. I've been keen to start putting my voice out there, sharing what I think, how I see the world, and ultimately to look for people who see eye to eye. And not exactly. I want discourse. I want to grow with my way of thinking and develop with other people. I'm not keen on arguing about stances. I don't think it's worth either my time or another person's time to discourse on things that if we're already set in our ways and no one's willing to change a viewpoint, I want to be constructive ultimately. And I'm 21 years old. I've been living in Tucson my whole life, out here in the hot desert, and I've always wondered how to reach purpose and live in, I guess you could say, alignment, as people say. Live in truth, live in the purpose, and what really is that? Because as I've gotten older, more and more, it's keen that we're living in a sort of false world, right? And that's a big statement to make. Because what does that mean? Everything's real, it's physical, it's tactile, we're all here. And we wake up to this world consistently and it's real. And I believe in that. I think that's really important, that we have something to hold on to. So how is it false exactly? And mainly what bugs me, and you may know this already and share this belief, where the civilized world we have now, all over the globe, whatever country you're in, this modern westernized world, this overly bureaucratic system is restricting us, and we are somewhat imprisoned. And then that can seem kind of dire, because people would argue, no, we can do anything. This is a very free country. This is the freest country there is, if you think about it, in the US, and what we can do here. But I really believe that so much of what's being thrown in our direction, and it's a personal plight. I want to get into that more, where it's really a personal kind of, you could say, spiritual journey here for all of us personally. But what we're inundated with, what's being shoved down our throats, are false perceptions, false beliefs, desires, indulgences, pleasures, things that can give us the illusion that we're free and we're getting all that we want in this world. And I don't think that's true in the slightest. Maybe a little bit. We have freedom. We can go where we want to go for the most part. Of course, this whole pandemic-esque situation is a bit restrictive right now, of course. And again, I want to get into that too. But a lot of this imprisoning is a personal thing. Like they say, discipline is freedom. And how do we reach a state of complete independence and the ability to truly go where we want to go, not just physically, not just feel the pleasures we want to feel, but find what we're really looking for and understand why we're really here. Again, I just wanted to start filming, and I don't have a completely clear message written out about what I want to say right now. But again, I just want to share my truth and find people and continue to do this. I'd like to start doing this much more often and see where this goes, because it is a bit nervous. I'm out here in the garden, the university kind of public thing. Beautiful out here, very peaceful. Just to, find my own space and become clear about my thinking and share that with the world, because I feel I need to. I feel it's my purpose, and I don't want to get too sidetracked about. I was going into the whole imprisonment and everything, but I've been realizing that there's more to life, and I've had those glimpses in this experience, and I think we all have, where the way we're moving through the world, what we're doing, what's happening, what's coming to us is much more, I guess you could say, divine and meant to be, and we reach those places where we're truly inspired, and I think that's ultimately what we're all seeking. But we lose that mentality, we lose that sense of awareness, and we come back into the mundane, and we feel often discouraged, and we feel tired of this world. Even if it's not exhausting us physically, we are often very mentally sick of what we're going through. And I want to explore that idea, because I don't want to get too caught up in the idea, we're all in prison and this is screwed and everything. But we're definitely in a very fallen state, and we might not see that right now because we have so much pleasure and enjoyment and desires, and you can turn on the TV and it can take you to all over the world and fantastical places you've never been, and there's so much of this excitement and dazzling of the eye and of the mind, and we're so stimulated in a way that's not actually giving us what we're here for. It's not giving us what we really need. And I've been one to experiment on the path of finding what we're really here to do, and searching how do I nourish my spirit truly and do what I'm meant to do. And I've stepped away from the television, thank God, because those things are really not beneficial, and I still struggle with the internet. I still struggle with like gluttony and other sins and things that keep me in a lower state. But the time that I've spent away from it, what I've learned in this process of seeking, I've noticed there really is so much more to be experienced. It's so much more divine, so much more worthwhile. And I want to share that truth and inspire people, because we all have access to a higher nature. And I want to share goals that I'm seeking and what I'm really looking for in this life. Because I'm human. Like, I enjoy the pleasures of this world and the excitement that there has. And I've had that desire for money and to get what I want and get the nice car and the big house and just all this stuff. And yet I feel that I've been gifted to really, really check myself at times and not go too far into any desire, because I feel how I can stray from myself, my true self, and what we're really here to do. And what I really feel I'm looking for is not totally clear, but it's definitely that energy of life, that presence in nature, the more social community, reaching our fullest confidence and being in our power and being unrestricted by ourselves. I think we're always going to have to tackle an adversary in life, whether it's a physical individual or set of individuals, not usually, but if it's some sort of force that's trying to keep us back, obstacles, and a lot of them are personal. In this channel, I want to talk a lot about the enemies we're facing in our lives and what those things are, because they're very external and they're very internal. That's a big part of the goal I want to tackle, is how do we succeed in our endeavors. We must first know our goals, but there's internal and external adversaries. You could call them enemies, demons, what have you. And internally, they can become very vague. It's part of our own subconscious, ourselves, our fears, our desires, our expectations, our weaknesses, and they can look very scary and foreign to us, and yet they're part of us. And in the external world, it's always realistic. The external world we wake up to is bound by realism and practicality and logic. And I think it houses the opposite of that. In this world we find that magical inspiration and the unknown, and it's here, but the more we uncover anything unknown, it becomes known. It follows the principles of physics and mathematics. It's very real. So when we uncover those adversaries and that evil, it's not always as story-like. There aren't physical demons out there that are roaming this place. I'm not saying it's like that. When we reveal our obstacles, these are just parts of reality. The forces at work, the so-called elites, people that are in great places of power, whatever your perception is, whether you're someone who's into conspiracies or like thinks everything is just hunky-dory, the way our system is set up right now, people in power are misusing this planet. And in a way, we're all contributing to this system, right? But the way positions and systems in this country are run, or in the whole world, is psychopaths come into power. Very, very, cold-hearted people, because that lifestyle of success is not, this worldly success is not a very honest place. And I've noticed that in my pursuits of success and power and whatever it is, anything in the ego of good looks and just wanting to be, powerful get what I want, those lowly animalistic desires, I find that, you know, we lose ourselves. We lose our goodness, our truth. And I'm glad to wake up to that a lot. And I still deal with those kind of things. But what I was going to say is the more we uncover these kind of enemies, these things that are keeping us down, these systems, we always have a fighting chance. It's never as scary as it may seem. But at the same time, if you're on a process of waking up to what's really going on in this world, it can be very frightening because it demands a lot of us. Ultimately, that's what scares us, is the fact that we need to come into our own power. And here I am trying to film a video and not really sure what to do. It's not completely, again, fleshed out, and I'm very nervous, but I know that there's a step in the right direction here to shine what I have to shine and be my fullest self and figure out, like, how do we set those goals? How is it not all talk? What are we really fighting for? And what I really want, I mean, is not ultimately a personal desires for myself. Now it's becoming much more of, how do we change this as a whole so that all of us in time can prosper in this place, on this planet, in this world. And, you know, I used to be very, very keen on us fighting for everything to be better for us through the government or whatever. Some way everything can be given to us and we can be made free by what's granted. And I'm realizing more and more that we need to be in an environment that holds us responsible. I think it's good that we're in this place, even if it's not a good place, because it really is, to some extent, forcing us to come into our power and learn what we have to learn in this experience. I think true freedom is a personal journey, and it's not about trying to change the whole political structure or whatever. I think as long as we are kept free and not infringed, our rights are not infringed by other individuals, other governments, whatever, we're able to be free as long as we don't interfere with other people's freedom. We have a chance at prospering, but it takes the right mindset, the right heart set. So it isn't always the most clear thing, but what I really want is connection with nature and more community and freedom from this kind of restrictive place. I don't think the world is ending and all going kaput and everything's dying. I don't think everything is you know, screwed. And in a lot of religious texts can say that things have to get worse before they get better. Sure, I want to be stoic. I'm keen on facing whatever this reality is, because I had a lot of expectations growing up, thinking this was going to be hunky-dory and a good time for me, and realizing the more I got older, that's never been true. Life hasn't gotten easier, but like it said, you know, life doesn't get easier, you just get stronger. And what I'm really looking for is that community. Is ever since I was very young, I dreamed about like having a commune, something where people are living together collectively on a large patch of land where it's self-sustaining and you are connected with the individuals. You're cooking together, you're growing together, you're playing music together, you're just making art. There's this something that feels so much more freeing than the kind of point A to point B pursuit we have in this world, where we're trying to get to higher success and better job and a bigger house, and it's more isolating. And not to say everyone has that desire in the city, but I think it contributes to that. It contributes to that kind of pursuit. When we live in this environment, it gives us that desire. And what I really want is something that's much more, it's as if we could dance through this world. You know, if you're like in the kitchen making food, and you can operate in two kinds of ways. One where you're sluggish and bending over and you're not keen on doing what you're doing, and the other one is where we're energized. And that's a silly analogy, but it kind of operates in every form of life, where if you're truly, your heart is in whatever you're doing and you're passionate about it, it's not really a struggle as much as you can dance through it. It's not an internal struggle. There might be external things you have to face, those obstacles, but what is that place where we come into our own power? I know I'm kind of scatterbrained, because again, this is my first time really trying to film something and get all my ideas out here. But if we can reach a place where we're living collectively, whether that's more of a village scenario, whether we're just in our own homes isolated in nature, if that's what you really want, I don't know. But I'm looking for you know, freedom. Again, spiritual freedom, freedom from bureaucratic oppression, I want to get into a lot of stuff, so my mind is just kind of racing right now, but there's a lot of things we have to tackle that I don't want to get into right now, but we're up under a lot of global control, and it plays the guise as our safety and what's going to help us get through this or whatever. There's a lot of things going on that are not for our benefit, that are disguised as such. And even our own desires, a lot of things we personally want are not good for us and are not truly what we want, but we don't know that. We're in a sleep-like fallen state right now, and I'm just trying to share the beginning of the awakening I'm having and hopefully inspire people. But yeah, I want to continue to meet more people that are like-minded, because again, it's a personal journey to have something like a commune, a place, a community of people that can truly prosper outside of this system, outside of the need for the need for external stimulus and external benefactors. If we could build a society, or many societies, communities that are self-sustained and prosperous, and each individual is aligned with those values of that place, I mean, what more is there to fight for? You know, once we can keep away from relying on this larger state. Where I'm going with this is, we can't always just change the framework of the political system or anything for it to work for us. It might seem that way, but I really just don't believe that's as viable as the personal growth we have to go through as individuals. So to have those kind of communities, it takes each individual to be in the right mindset and the right heart set, right? And that takes a lot of growth, especially living in this world where we're so deceived into thinking we want what we don't really want. And I'm just hoping to inspire you and show you, like, maybe you want this instead of that. Maybe you want responsibilities that are going to strengthen you, rather than this pleasure, these desires, these things that lead us astray that we think we want even at a young age. So it's very vague right now. I think it'll be more clarified since I don't have a specific topic to talk about, but if you're watching all the way through this, thank you so much for contributing. Like, please add some of your thoughts, share what you think, make videos. We can come together, we can have a discourse, and I understand that, like, a commune is a dream of mine. I sometimes feel childish, because how does that work? You need to establish ground rules for something like that, but it's also largely based in just where everyone's coming from, and if their ideas are aligned, we can prosper. If it's not, then it doesn't work as well. In this country, a lot of people have completely different perspectives, and we just have to follow a certain framework for everything to work, but it's not as cohesive as it could be. So that's something I'm really looking forward to clarifying and fighting for, because if we're self-sufficient, if we're only really relying on Mother Nature, I believe we're free. I believe we extend out of this prison that we might not see as a prison, and we come into true freedom. We change our perceptions. We realize that life really is a lot more magical than we've been told, and we have been sold a bill of goods. And see, it's hard to put into words, but if you hear what I'm saying and you know what I'm saying, you know, you're there. A lot of people are, a lot of people are not, and I'm not looking to try to frustrate myself speaking to people who aren't aligned with this to some extent already, who don't already want a greater freedom. Because if you want to stay in the city and keep pursuing money, and you can do that, that's fine. There's really, like, I don't want to stop you. I don't want to tell you you're doing something that's incorrect. But I believe there's so much more to life when you take those steps towards humbling, when you take the initiative to let go from things that we're told to be attached to. And we can build heaven on earth. And maybe the world is always going to have a balance of light and dark and good and evil, and it will never be as fantastical as one would want it to be when we have those visions of how wonderful it could be. Maybe it's meant to be always somewhat difficult. I don't know, but I'm here to fight for that. I'm here to fight for heaven on earth and figuring out like what does it take? It takes so much internal work. It takes so much external work. And it's spooky, and I feel like all my life, the society I've been brought up in and the one you've probably been brought up in too, can make it feel weird to be on that side of good, because it's so common for us to be shown how cool the ego is and a certain mode of being rather than truly aligning with what's good. I was afraid of what's truly good. You know, we have those, like, we're afraid of real love at times, and we're afraid of receiving what we could really have in this world. I don't know, there's a lot of fear in this of not only the bad that we have to face, the obstacles, but there's a lot of fear of the good when we really begin to think about what we could have, what we could embody. And I'm grateful that I've been able to sort that out and continue to sort that out and become more fearless towards what we're meant to do and what we're meant to become, and how much of a reality that is. Like, in a sense, our freedom is already here. But see, I'm getting kind of scatterbrained. I'm out in the heat. I don't feel as crisp as I usually do, but I want to continue doing this and refining this. Again, thanks for sticking this way through. Let's start getting our voices out and sharing who we are and how we see the world, and coming from the heart, because I still think it's so important we do that, but we have to face the reality. There are a lot of rules about this realm that we're in that I don't think many of us want to accept. I have trouble aligning myself with the way things really are and need to be addressed. And I don't want to get too much into that. There are real enemies. A lot of the things going on in the world, the mainstream issues being shown to us, are not really real. They're all distractions. A lot of the stuff that they make out to seem like is a big deal and is going on is such a big thing, it's not. Look around you, assess what you need to work on personally. I need to myself. And there are real enemies and things that are troublesome, whether there is people with evil intent really trying to do these things, or whether we're just unaware and creating problems that we need to solve. Either way, there are real issues that need to be tackled. I believe, like, a lot of the new technological developments and new wireless systems, like, I don't just believe this, like, the facts are coming out and they're very fresh. This is very dangerous. I don't want to get into that too much right now, but a lot of things are not being spoken about that need to be shared. When I share them to people and am able to stand my ground and make it clear that this is unarguable, that there are real dangers, and even in other topics, just a lot of the darkness, when I try to share that, people get scared. People don't want to hear it, and that's understandable, because I've dealt with that fear. I don't want to make people feel bad. Again, I don't want them cowering, but it is hard to think about. But if you're willing to face a lot of the scarier stuff in this world that is sometimes hard to believe initially too, we can solve it. If we can come together and realize the truth, we can assess it, and that's all we have to do. And we have the power. We're the real elites. We're here to inherit this earth. You know, the so-called elites and people in power, I mean, it's all just this show. It's all a game being played that we're accepting the rules of. But we're not playing ball the way we could be. I don't know. I feel like I'm getting off on a tangent here and being too analogous, but we need to assess the things that might be frightening right now and realize that a lot of real truth is jarring and hard to comprehend as a simple human. You know, as infinite as we are, we're in something bigger than us, and we really have to come together and face these things for ultimate freedom. I know I'm being vague, but I don't know, man. It's so deep. There's so many things around us that are heavenly and divine and perfect and just amazing and good for us, and there are a lot of things that are incredibly detrimental that we are surrounded by, that we have desires to stay in sort of comfort zones that are deadly. And it takes personal journey. I want to get into that. Self-improvement is such an amazing thing. I think it's necessary. So yeah, I don't know what else to really touch on, because so many of these topics need to be like really brought to light. I need to speak on in depth. But yeah, I think you probably have a good sense of what I'm talking about, and maybe your values are aligned. Maybe we can work together in building something that is prosperous for the world, that changes people's mindsets, that inspires other people and shows them that we can set ourselves free, we can become prosperous and live in a way that's so much more meant for us than what we have now and how we've created what we've created. I want to go into detail about civilization and about who we were in the past, and that isn't always for certain, like in ancient times, what life was like, but people were very smart and knew a lot of stuff that we intuitively still know, but we've sort of forgotten, and we're not willing to acknowledge because we want to keep everything in a sense of, like, we want to keep everything logistical and realistic. And while that's very important and plays a huge role, we have to key into our inspiration, into our intuition, and the way we personally see things, because there was one woman who said, like, you know, before the internet, a lot of people were flagged as crazy for saying things they really genuinely believed. But once the internet was at public and people were sharing videos and everything, it's sort of like the so-called crazy folks were starting to compare notes and realize that there's a collective perception that's been suppressed. And it goes so far into the intuition, so far out of logic, that maybe we can stray from what's necessary. But I think we're discovering a greater truth right now. There really is an awakening going on. I don't want to get too hoodoo about all this, but yeah, prosper today. Stay blessed. Love you. Thank you.